and welcome to the Boot Room. We're going to take a look from a tactical and analytical point of view as to what happened in the 2-0 defeat against Brighton. Yes, we were missing Juraj Kuška a huge amount in the midfield. He'd had such a good and impressive performance against Aston Villa. He was a big miss. But what else went wrong from a tactical point of view? Let's have a look. The opening seconds of the game set the tone for the full 90 minutes. The ball is played back to Otobo, who, despite having multiple safe options to play the ball back and keep possession, opts instead to play an underhit pass to Cleverley, who is immediately put under pressure by the advancing Brighton forward. Cleverley has his back to the player and is beaten to the ball, and Brighton subsequently attack, not for the last time in the game. From the subsequent goal kick, we can see the difference in the attitudes between the two teams when it comes to pressing the ball when out of possession. Bachmann plays the ball to Kabasele, who plays a tight ball into Otobo, who is immediately pressured from the side, forcing him to play predictably to Messina, who in turn is pressed into a long ball, surrendering possession to the Seagulls. Now compare that to 30 seconds later. Brighton have retained possession and will continue to do so as Watford placed them under very little pressure on the ball. A combination of one-touch passing and easy movement sees the Seagulls retain possession and move the ball around as the Hornets continue to show little or no urgency to apply pressure to any player in possession. The ball is eventually worked to Bissouma, who, without a Watford player within 10 yards of him, is allowed to turn and select one from numerous options. He elects instead to play the ball back and continue the possession, and fluid movement again sees Brighton progress the ball upfield. The Hornets' front six retreat in formation, but you can see from this picture that we've elected to congest the centre of the park, effectively allowing Brighton's 3-4-3 shape to gain superiority on the flanks. The superiority of our own numbers in the centre at no time converts into any quality of possession, as on the rare occasions that we win the ball, we have no out ball, no one to play the ball to in any space. Brighton, on the other hand, can switch the ball from flank to flank relatively unopposed and unpressured, and with a wide out ball always available. Now, often teams will choose to drop into their own half before applying pressure to the opposing team. This is often referred to as a low block. As a counter-attacking team, this can work by drawing the opposition forward, winning the ball back, and then breaking quickly into the space behind the opposing team. This seemed not to be the case against Brighton, as this example shows. Bissouma, who was outstanding on the day, holds the ball in central midfield 20 yards inside the Watford half. The Brighton wide midfielders run forward, providing him with further passing options. The next frame is 2 seconds further on, and yet no one from the Watford central midfield has moved to shut down the player on the ball. This passiveness off the ball was a hallmark of Watford's first half performance, while Brighton ran to provide passing options to the man on the ball all the time. In fact, the three centre midfield players are standing so far off Bissouma that he tries to play a player-splitting pass through the centre. Fortunately, Kabasele has seen that Messina has had to cover the Brighton right midfielder and steps in. However, having won the ball, his teammates are again so narrow that he has very few passing options and therefore is immediately under pressure from the Brighton forwards, and we saw this pattern repeated time and time again in the first 45 minutes. A different view, and one that demonstrates the lack of width in our play, but also the fact that on the few occasions when the team had reasonable possession, our passing let us down. Here, Cleverley woefully underhits a pass trying to release Sarr, who has to check his run in order to collect the ball, and the momentum in the attack stalls. Typically, when playing against a back three, the best way to hurt the opposition is to attack the areas wide of the outside centre-backs and behind the wing-backs. This is the area that Sarr operates to normally devastating effect, but his constant requirement to be narrow negates this, and very few times did our wide players pull the centre-backs out of position. In this instance, Kabasele is again under constant pressure that Brighton impose. He could pass back to Bachmann, but instead plays the ball out to Messina. Again, the Brighton forward covers the ground to exert pressure on Messina from the side, forcing him to play a wide line ball. In the meantime, the Brighton midfield is covering to screen off a short passing option. Without a wide option, Messina is forced to try to find presumably Dennis, but under pressure he surrenders the ball back to Bissouma, who can start another Brighton attack. The corner for the goal is given away by Troost-Ekong, but it's delivered with pace to the near post, and Bachmann stays to the centre of his goal, so Troost-Ekong has to deal with it. Brighton have had for several years large burly centre-backs who are more than a little useful at set pieces, and they start by compressing 4 Watford defenders and 3 Brighton players centrally between the penalty spot and the 18-yard line before splitting and moving to attack the ball. Messina goes with Duffy but gets in front of him and turns his back on the Brighton defender. This allows Duffy to run in front of him as the ball comes in. At the same time, Troost-Ekong, who has not been delegated to mark a player, has been nominated instead to attack the ball and doesn't do his job, miscalculating the ball's trajectory. Duffy finishes with a fine header. This angle shows firstly how Messina's body position would not allow him to be aware of Duffy's movement behind. Secondly, how Duffy uses Messina's shirt as leverage, impeding Messina's ability to contest the header, although by then it was too late. And thirdly, we can see the level of miscalculation from Troost-Ekong when it comes to meeting the ball at its highest point. It will be interesting to see if Sierralta is back in for this role, as he proved very dominant in the air last season. Bachmann rolls the ball to Troost-Ekong, who is lightly pressed by Maupay. 5 minutes earlier in the same situation, Troost-Ekong had attempted a long ball to Dennis, which was overhit and ran through to the Seagulls keeper. This time instead, he spots Cleverley making a run towards him and underhits a pass. We don't know if Cleverley was asking for the ball, but it appeared a run to pull in behind a player behind him, as he was neither on the half turn to receive the ball, and nor did he check his shoulder. Bissouma pounces and gets to the ball first, prodding the ball to Maupay, who is now goal side of Troost-Ekong and goes on to finish with a fine strike. This angle shows the impact of the underhit pass and the Bissouma interception, as it left Troost-Ekong with no possible time to make a defensive intervention. We'll stop there. The first half was where the game was lost, and Xisco made multiple changes, pushing to try to get back into the game late on in the second half. However, in summary, Watford were almost entirely passive. The only player who consistently attempted to press the opposition was Dennis up front on his own. The narrowness of our shape completely negated our greatest threat, which is Sarr, and it didn't allow us to create problems for their back three. Brighton were on the front foot, and we were set to contain them. Their wide front players pushed onto our fullbacks, and their wide midfielders drove Sarr and Sema backwards. No attempt was made to change this until far too late in the game. Troost-Ekong needs to be a defender first and foremost, and a playmaker from the back a very distant 22nd. Against Aston Villa, we played far more directly than against Brighton, and Dennis and Sarr competed in the air and forced defenders to take a step back 10 yards for fear of the pace going in behind them. This completely disappeared against Brighton. Finally, Kushka has become more vital than any 34-year-old midfielder in the Premier League should ever be in only 71 minutes of football. His absence was glaring. These, like football, are all about opinions, and if you disagree, that's perfectly fine, no problem at all. Come on and let us know what you think and why you think this is either wrong or what else contributed. It's certainly not an exhaustive list of what went wrong on the day. If you like the video, please subscribe. It's great to have you here. About 85% of our viewership aren't actually subscribed, so if you're one of those, please do sign up. It's great to have you here. It really helps the channel grow, and we'll see you again soon, hopefully. Cheers.